Hello, everyone. Welcome to the weekly meeting of the Phrancko Sweater Knitters. Let me start by saying an announcement. Next week, next Saturday, January 6th, we will hold a special meeting at 10:30 in the morning Pacific time. And the link is found, the same link as for this meeting is found on the website phrancko.com. And the purpose of that meeting, that special meeting next week, is we will not be recording it. So if anybody is wanting to join a meeting and they're not joining because they don't want to be recorded and shown on the internet, feel free to come at 10:30 next Saturday morning. Or perhaps you just simply can't make it at 2:30 in the afternoon Pacific time, and 10:30 in the morning might be a better time for you. If either of those things is true of you, please come join us next week. We'll give it a try and see if there's anybody who wants to meet at that time without a recording. So that said, hi, Jenny.
Evening, Frank.
Hi, Sidra.
Hello.
Hi, Judith.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Ron.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Frank.
It looks like we have the holiday gathering today. So I hope you're all feeling really talkative.
Well, Ron and I are here. That should be fine.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Fill in the blanks.
We're all feeling really full because we've eaten too much food.
That's right. So I'm ready to take a nap myself.
Oh, I have a question concerning the Zoom meeting at 10:30.
Yes.
Do we can we join using the same link as
Yes.
Yes, okay.
It will be the same link, the one that appears on the website after you've joined. And by the way, joining the website is free. You can play around, generate patterns, but you won't see the final pattern unless you pay for it. But you can see how it is to work the website and create a pattern that is fit to your size and your choices that you make, including the gauge. So it'll be interesting to see if that brings any new people into the group. Not that I'm unhappy that we have an established group here. I love it that we all come back together and we have regular members that show up most every week, except holiday weekends. We're missing a few today, but that's okay too.
Yes, it is difficult because people are doing, lots of meeting over the Christmas and New Year period, aren't they? And catching up with friends and
yes,
you never know when they're going to see people. Yes,
and I suppose a lot of people are traveling this week and don't find it convenient to get online.
Well, Frank, when we purchase your patterns, how much does it cost to purchase a pattern? I know it's free to look at everything and do it, but how much is it to purchase it?
It costs $12 to purchase the first fit, and I forget, is it $2 or $3 for the second fit if you choose another?
Judith says 2.
I think.
So it's something like that. I'll tell you a secret. Don't tell anybody.
Okay.
Because nobody who hears this is going to buy a pattern now, but I'm going to reduce the price as a trial starting January 1st. So come back January 1st and you'll find a lower price. Yes, in 2 days, you'll find a lower price than $12 for the first fit. I'm not going to tell you what the price is.
It's a surprise.
It will be less.
And the fit it's still the same measurements that we put in the same gauge.
Everything will be the same.
Yes. Fit is just the amount of ease.
That's correct. And you can choose different fits. You can put in your measurements and then choose a standard fit, which is 2 inches of ease. or various other amounts of ease that are labeled on the website. And you can generate a pattern that is for the same size person in multiple fits.
So you can have a before Christmas jumper and an after Christmas jumper.
Yes, that's right.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Frank, one of your patterns that you did in cast on, I thought like had either negative ease or no ease. It was like a t-shirt, so it really
That's
was
right.
just supposed to be just fitted.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is there,
That's one of the choices too, right?
yes, there is a choice of negative ease.
In case you want everything to be your before Christmas jumper.
Which Christmas could that have been?
Hi, Serena. You came in. I didn't say hi to you.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Good. Nice to see you.
Good to see all of you.
So I have a question on the yoke sweaters. Are they normally like a 4-inch ease? Because that's what a lot of the patterns show. That they're
It's any
4 inch.
whatever ease you want to make.
Okay.
It'll have all the same options. It's just
Okay.
choose the yoke sweater and it will fit it. It'll create a pattern for whatever ease you choose.
Okay.
I think a regular, like a traditional yoke sweater is often greater than a set-in sleeve sweater's ease, just because the fabric is kind of shapeless in that round. But what Frank has done is fit his sleeves
Right.
into that architecture, so you could easily go down to an ease that might be scrunchy in the bust otherwise.
Okay.
Theoretically, having
And I should, since we mentioned it, the yoke version of the sweater is a new version that we've been working on. I say we, Judith and I have been working on for 6 months, and it is not yet live on the website. I'm going to publish a pattern in the February issue of Cast On magazine that uses the technique. And I'm not sure when we will make it live on the website as an option. I'd like to have at least 2, and I think we've had volunteers from 3 people to knit one in January. I am happy to have people knit it as a test knit, so let's make sure it works for everybody.
So I've got my swatch for that already. I still have to measure it.
Ooh.
Wow.
oh,
Great.
Will it be
Is
for
that the one
yourself?
that's going to be used? Let
Yeah, it's gonna be mine. In a DK. So I
the
think
DK way.
Kathy's talking about doing it in a fingering stranded.
Yes.
Mine's not gonna be stranded.
Yeah, I wanted to do also a fingering weight stranded. I'm still not sure. It might be fingering, but maybe how do you say it? Stitch pattern, like pearls and maybe cross stitch, or I'm not sure.
Well,
I have to sleep on it a few nights.
well, don't forget and purchase it. We're giving it to you for free as a test knitter. So you just create the sweater pattern as a crew neck sweater on the website, and then send me the sweater number by email, and I will convert it to a yoked pattern behind the scenes. You can't do that yourself on the website yet.
So hopefully I'll be ready soon.
All right. Sounds like you're getting close if you already got your swatch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy with it.
Sidra, are you putting any patterning in, or are you doing a plain one?
No, okay, so I'm doing what is it, a Fibonacci? You know, so I'm doing like
Fibonacci.
so I'm Fibonacci, okay. So I'm doing like a row of knit and then 2 rows of stocking knit and then 2 rows of, I meant pearl, and then 2 rows of pearl, and then, as it goes to
1, 2, 3,
3, 5.
5,
And
8.
then I go back down to 3 and then, and
Uh,
2, 1, so
Okay, yeah,
it looks good. It's kind of subtle in a way.
yeah.
So,
Oh.
and that way, when you're doing your increases, you don't really notice that you won't have to think about where do I have to move it around to.
that's right.
Yeah, so I'm
Just-
kind of cheating that way.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying. As my
That sounds
daddy always
interesting.
says.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. Yeah.
The other choice you have to make, Sidra, is do you want those Fibonacci rings to all be at the shoulder level and right here, or do you want to continue them down the arm?
I think
It's
gonna
still done in the
continue
round,
down
but of
the
course
arm.
the seam, the faux seam begins. And
Yeah. So it's gonna come down to just at the where you join the arm, and then it'll just be stockinette the rest of the way down,
okay.
I think.
In the pattern I'm publishing, I did all solid up here on the top, and then I did 2 colors, not stranded knitting, but helical stripes around the shoulders and across the sleeve caps, and then solid from there down,
Yeah.
which is also a simple way to do a yoke without patterning. I'm sorry, Ron disappeared for a minute. I wanted to say something to him. Right at this point, I was going to mention, I am going to.
Ron, come back, Ron.
Come back.
Ron is the person who mentioned that if I'm going to do patterns that are large blocks of color, that it would be better to use Jacquard, Ladderback,
Yes.
Ladderback Jacquard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I've been working with Ladderback Jacquard to learn how to do it. And it's hard to believe, but of the multiple videos I watched on it, every one was different. They all had something they did differently. There were so many different ways to do it. And so I started working on a video to show all of the variations and how they differ and what the result is and what I decided I'm going to use on my next sweater. So, and then I did a sample Ladderback Jacquard. Okay, let's talk about the pronunciation. Is it Jacquard or Jacquard? And it, of course, comes from the French. So Judith, you tell us how you pronounce it.
In French, it's Jacquard.
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 So there's another one for you.
and the British have changed that to Jacquard.
Yes, the
yeah.
accent.
And Americans took it even further, and we call it Jacquard. And so I've decided I would rather do it the British way because that's closest to the French Jacquard.
Yeah. Yeah, the accent is on the
second first syllable. Jacquard, not Jacquard. Yes? No? Tell me.
Jacquard.
Jacquard. Oh, Jacquard.
In French. Jacquard. The D is silent.
Yes.
In
Jacquard.
French, but it's Jacquard.
So it's the second syllable that is stressed.
Jacquard.
Oh, that means Americans have done it.
We've done it
How
right.
unusual. Now I have to edit the video where I said the opposite. Good.
No.
So now I can continue to call it Jacquard. Ladderback Jacquard.
Ron is back. Ron is back.
Hi, Ron. We're talking about Ladderback Jacquard because you turned me on to it, and I wanted to thank you for doing that. And I'm going to do a video that explores all of the different options I've seen in videos on how to do it. And
how to pronounce it.
And how to pronounce it. So we were discussing how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
And so the French is closest to Jacquard.
Well, French doesn't have word level stress. It only has phrase final lengthening. So only when the word is produced in isolation, of course.
Or in French? No, again in English.
No, that's too trivial for trivia night.
Uh, so this week I was working on a sample using my method of Ladderback Jacquard, and I'd like to show you my sample.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can spotlight me and then change it so you can see my hands.
Oh my gosh, look how good he is at this.
Well, I've made a few videos I've learned over the years.
Wow.
So here is a sample of a small circle. And on this side is a much larger circle. I wanted to experiment to see how big this can get without and still work properly. And I love the fact that the flexibility of the fabric, the drape of the fabric doesn't change very much because you're not really knitting two connected layers the way it would be if you were catching floats all the way across here. So now let me show you the beauty of the other side.
Oof.
It looks like Intarsia.
Oh yeah.
No, it doesn't.
No.
No,
Wow.
look at that. I
Wow.
love it. There's the
Yeah.
small circle, but you're also using Ladderback Jacquard when the blue is not showing on the front. So
It's like you have a layer of mesh, isn't
you
it, on
have
the
a
other
layer of
side?
mesh. That's right. And this is a
Yeah.
completely separate layer.
Yeah.
It's not connected at all. And on this large section here,
You can pull it apart. Yeah.
Yeah.
pull it apart completely. I was worried that that might mean you couldn't do large sections on, say, a sock, but this is a very tiny sock-like tube, and it works just fine. And if you were putting your foot into this sock, you wouldn't catch on any of those floats. And it seems to just solve all of the problems I was having with the pattern I was originally trying to do my first sweater in, and then abandoned.
And
Have you tried doing it with a more complex design? I struggled a bit when you've got not just a circle or a square. When you've
Yeah.
actually got a more complex pattern, then you have to be really careful about the which one you're knitting and catching with. It can get a bit confusing as to which are your back stitches and which are your front stitches when you've got a complicated pattern.
I suppose that's true. I haven't had that experience.
Yeah.
I did find that, notice this yarn has some blue in it, as well as the red and the yellow and so forth. And whenever the blue was here, coming up to here, I found that I got confused which one was which, because normally the one that's on the back is a different color than the one on the front. But for a brief period, the one on they were both the same color, and that was harder, made it harder to realize which one was the back stitch. But it wasn't a major problem. It just made it a little more complicated. And as far as where you do it, you can actually easily modify any charted pattern by simply putting a vertical line between the two stitches that you want to do, where you want to do the Jacquard switch, I guess we would call it, the Jacquard stitch, I guess you would call it. And anyway, that's that. Any other questions, comments?
That looks really nice and it doesn't distort on the front so much. Other things when I've ever tried to catch, it kind of distorts on the front and you can
Yes.
like see it a little
Structurally-
bit or pearls a little bit, but yeah.
Structurally, it's double knitting.
It is.
The
Except
interior
it's not,
layer is
except it's not
every
knitting
stitch.
every stitch on the back. That's the difference. It is double knitting. That's why it's a second flat layer. But it's not knitting every stitch on that layer.
Yeah. So when you're working more complicated designs, you're sort of mentally managing stranded knitting techniques and double knitting techniques in your mind, but sort of at the same time as one another when the designs get more complex. You might not need to do any jacquard stitches in one little section, but you could switch, carry a ladder up all the time and switch, which is front and back, just like if you were switching colors up a column of knitting in double knitting.
There's a pattern on Ravelry called It's Not About the Hat. And that's all about the Ladderback Jacquard. And that's got like a bit of like a fleur-de-lis pattern that goes round the hat. And that was where I struggled sometimes when you're changing colours on the front for the fleur-de-lis. And then you're trying to follow which is your column that's going up the middle for your catching your stitches. And
Yes.
yeah, you've really got to concentrate quite hard to make sure you don't get confused and stop changing colours in the right place. Yeah.
Look up.
Well, it must have been a pretty large fleur-de-lis. Otherwise, you don't need to use it if it's just a few stitches across each color section.
I don't know. It says it was in it's in the in the round, so you're not going backwards and forwards.
Uh-huh.
So maybe that's why they did the Ladderback Jacquard, because you're doing it in the round.
But
rather
well,
than
how
the
many stitches were in each color change?
Well, on some of the long runs, you've got where the pattern is. So some you've got 6 stitches in the color change. Others you've got 8 or 10, depending upon where the
Yes.
pattern's waving and whether you're going along the middle of the pattern or on the edges of the pattern.
Yes.
So you're kind of
And that's
popping up
enough
and down.
stitches that you would want to do Ladderback Jacquard.
Yeah, yeah.
You can also get away with just doing it on the if there are just a few rows of that, you can do it just on those few rows and then go back to regular stranded knitting on the smaller color change rows.
Yeah, yeah.
You
It was
mentioned
interesting technique though, yeah.
You
Frank,
were saying,
you-
yes?
you mentioned, I didn't hear if there was a question from Jenny. I interrupted her.
No, I was just saying it was an interesting technique, and I'll be interested to see Frank's videos because there are several different techniques, and interested to see which one you prefer out of all the techniques to do it. So yes.
Yeah, that was my question also. I was curious if there was enough difference between the different ways that you saw on those other videos that made you prefer one technique.
Well, most of the largest amount of variations was what kind of increase do you use to start the jacquard's strip at the base of the place where you're going to do it. You do an increase.
What did you land on?
And what?
What did you land on? You're giving us a preview of your video choices.
Mostly what I landed on was not to use the lifted increase.
Yes.
That clearly is distorted and has to be fiddled with and hopefully blocked out to make it. And this is just not worth going through all that. I use a make one left or a make one right. I don't know whichever one feels convenient at the time.
Yeah.
Another variation was to use the knit front, knit back, knit front and back in the same stitch. And that one was completely invisible as well. And another one started at 2 rows before you did the color change, before you needed the new color.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any advantage in doing that. It just complicated it a little bit.
Did that one use a half hitch or an E-loop cast on or?
That was the one that used knit front and back, actually.
Oh, really?
So that was one difference. And then the other difference is when you're doing the Jacquard stitch, which is what I'm calling it when you're doing that special stitch all the way up the back, all the way up the design. When you're doing that, do you knit it or do you purl it?
Yeah.
And I can, let me show you this again. I'll show you what it looks like to purl it. Because that's what I mean, to knit it, that's what I did. Let's see if I can change this back. And spotlight. Okay. Notice these stitches, if you can tell, they look like they are purled. They're all purl stitches, and that's because I knitted them on the other side. The alternative is to purl them on the other side, and then these stripes, like that stripe, would look like a row of knitted stitches. And the reason I chose to do the purl version, well, I don't know. You work it knitted, and it turns out to be purled on the wrong side. So what do you call it? The knit or the purl? Anyway, the reason I chose the one I chose, where when I work it, I do knit, is because this is smoother. And if you're going to feel it against your leg or against your foot, you want the smoothest possible fabric. And so you don't want a raised level of knit stitches there. On the other hand, if you're doing maybe a cardigan and it might flop open and you want the inside to show, it's actually more attractive to have a row of knitted stitches there. So there are reasons for doing it one way or the other, whether you want it smooth or whether you want it to be more attractive on the underside.
I have a sample of them knit or purled from the front.
Okay. Can you get it and show it to us?
Right there.
All right. Yes. And that's the row of knit stitches that were created by purling them on the other side.
And for this pattern, I suggested that because it's when the stitches change color in the motif, it's easier to keep track of.
Yes. Yeah.
This one has a purl bump.
Yeah.
But it does, you see.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
columns,
I didn't think of that reason, but that's true.
Yeah.
It'd be easier to know when that stitch has come up.
See, it's got a purl bump under there.
I also chose this version though, because to do that, you have to bring both yarns to the front and then purl the one. And on this one, you only bring one yarn to the front and knit the other one. And so it's less yarn moving back and forth. Just a tad bit easier to do. Now I don't have to make a video, just tell everybody.
No, you have to do the video. So where did you find all the resources for this?
YouTube. There are, just search Ladderback Jacquard, and as usual, there were some videos that were really excellent, and I made a list of them, and I plan to put them all in the description of my video and say, here are all the variations I'm going to talk about. I didn't invent any of these. I learned all of them from all of these people, and these are all good videos. And then there are videos where the people don't explain it very well, or they don't show it very well, or they spend more time talking about the introduction of what they're going to show you than actually showing you, which is actually the problem I usually have too. talk so much. At the beginning of my videos, I keep trying to make them more succinct. So anyway, I chose the ones I thought were best. But if you just search for Ladderback Jacquard on YouTube, you'll find a lot of videos.
I was wondering if you'd seen anything written. I'm thinking after hearing about this, I'm going to go and kind of look it up in some of my books and see what they say about it. Because I don't remember really reading about it before.
I actually ordered a book. The description of it was socks, a book of sock patterns, and it said it used Jacquard patterning. And I bought the book and got the book, and it uses stranded knitting and no mention of Ladderback Jacquard.
Oh,
So I think they were just using the word Jacquard to mean two-color knitting
Oh,
in the
boy.
description. So that didn't work so well. But no, I also have a lot of reference books, and I should probably look them up too. You're right.
Yeah, because I was wondering, it's like, I wonder what June Hyatt would say.
Yes.
Or someone, I mean, because she's like, has so much of everything. What would
Yeah.
would she have something about that? I don't know. I don't remember reading about it before. So I'll have to check it out. Everybody's so quiet. What is everybody knitting? What are you knitting, Judith?
I'm still working on my dress now. So it's, I think I have 4 or 5 inches to do. I'm not sure. Just take the sleeve out.
Your video looks a lot clearer today. Are you doing something different than you sometimes do?
No.
Oh.
No. Same light.
It does look clear.
Maybe, I don't know.
Are you using a new
Okay. Well,
moisturizer?
just a comment. I thought maybe I
No,
would
no,
tell you to do whatever you're doing because it's clearer than sometimes.
she's giving the screen a clean. Cindy, have you started your vest yet?
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
look at
Oh,
that.
that's beautiful.
Oh.
Okay.
I love
Look
that
at that.
neck.
Yeah, it's
Very
so a few rounds
like
of
that.
purl stitches, a few rounds of knit
Knit.
stitches.
Yeah. Oh, I
Oh,
like
that
that.
looks really so cozy. I love it. Oh gosh. And that color is so pretty. That's the spinach, right?
The spinach, yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Wow. You've been busy. It's getting long.
I was supposed to finish this week.
Well, do you ever get tempted to just make a really short dress so that you would get finished faster?
Well, when I tried it last, I was tempted to do that when I realized how much I still had to do.
It's like, oh, it's a mini skirt.
Well, we gave someone else an assignment.
You did.
Oh,
And
yes, it's
I
true.
cast on Christmas Day, and this is how far I am on the vest. This is the
Oh,
level
yay.
2 vest, and so I've got
Oh.
about we're right at about 7 inches.
Beautiful knitting.
That's great.
Thank you. It almost did me in at the beginning though, because I had read the pattern before and chosen it, and Heather Storta did it. It's beautifully written. It's really, really nice. But I didn't pay close enough attention to what the cast on was. And so I was all set, long tail cast on. I do a good long tail, I can do that. And I read the pattern and it's like, oh no, it's Italian tubular cast on. And so I kind of like sweated that for most of the day, Christmas Day. I did a bunch of little swatches, and it's like, no, that looks like crap. No, that one's, it's, you know, 3 or 4 stitches look good, and then it looks crappy because you have to do this little weird stuff at the beginning, and then you're working the 2 layers and then put them together. But I finally got it, and it did turn out. I'm very pleased with how it turned
Yeah.
out. It
Oh,
looks
look at
really
that.
nice and
Beautiful.
nice and
It's a
Yes.
really
nice and
nice.
stretchy, and you
Look
know, it's
at
just
that.
it's really good. So
Very neat.
I'm loving this yarn. This is the Wool to Die For. It's non-superwash worsted merino, and they call it like improved. It has a little tiny bit more twist than their regular worsted used to have. And you can kind of see, hold on, if I can get it to focus.
There you go.
Okay. But
Oh,
it's really nice to work with. It doesn't split, and I do like how it looks, and
it looks
it's very
beautiful.
soft. It's very soft to the hand. Thank you. I'm paying attention to my tension, Frank.
Are you knitting on the tips of your needles?
Yes, I am knitting on the tips of my needles, and I'm being very careful to keep them at a 90-degree angle. That was one of the things that I when I was having trouble with my tension and kind of gutters, it was one of the things that Binka had suggested. She had me send a little video to her, and it was literally like 20 seconds of knitting and then another one of purling. And when I did it and actually looked at myself, I didn't realize that I was holding my needles at a different angle from knits and purls.
Oh,
That my knits were 90 degrees, but my pearls were wider like this. And you think about if you slice a carrot and you slice it straight across, you're going to have a perfect circle. And so that's one length around. But if you slice it at an angle, when I was holding it at the angle,
oh,
it's longer. It's like it's making an oval.
oh.
And it was like, oh, I never even noticed that I did that. I never even noticed that. I never even thought that that would make a difference. And when I saw it, it was like, oh gosh. So for anybody that's having trouble with your tension or something, make a tiny video of yourself and look at what you're doing, because I never noticed that I was doing it different.
Huh.
And it was like, oh, wow. So
You
I
know,
just have to do the 90 degrees.
there's so many little things that make a difference in your tension.
Mhm.
And, I also had a problem with tension. I guess everybody has a problem with tension at some point.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
had to work on it. And I kept asking people to help me. And I did not take the Taming Your Tensions course, which I should have taken, and that would have
I
solved
wanted an easy fix, so that's what I did. And
it.
Binka was fantastic.
But what it turned out to be for me was I had misunderstood what is that sizes the stitch. You know, you want different, if you use different needles to get different size stitches, right? And the different needles are different width or different diameter, each, thicker, thinner needles. So I assumed that when you wrapped the yarn around the needle, you needed to be around the barrel so that the barrel was
Yeah.
taking the right amount of yarn.
Mhm.
And you don't do that the same every time. And it was making, I would have really good, I mean, it would just come and go. So I had these
Yep.
gaps that would just come and
Variations.
go on the purl side. And then I don't know where I actually finally heard you should wrap the tip of the needle, and it's when you push the stitch onto the needle that the yarn gets sized by that
Yes.
needle.
Mhm.
So the sizing doesn't happen when you're wrapping, it happens when you push the stitch down onto the barrel.
Right, when the stitch goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the
So
same thing of both of your needles, you need to work on the tips. So you're not like pushing way in and stretching out the one that you just did, that you did on the row before either.
yes.
You don't want to do that.
Yes.
You want to work on the tips.
And
of the
it's
needle.
more efficient on the tips because you're not making as much movement.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right.
And
you're
it's
preventing those
probably
things.
easier on your hands as well, as long as you don't grip everything tight.
Right. Yeah. No. Everything should be held lightly and gently. You don't want to use more. You don't want to use more effort than you have to, because then that's more work on your shoulders, your wrists, your hands, everything. So,
Right.
but I'm making progress. This is the last one. So last one of my projects. All the swatches are done. So I'm doing it, and
I can't
thank
wait
you
for
for
you to
the
submit it.
encouragement.
I'm so excited for you to get finished and submit it because I know you're going to be very pleased at the result.
Thanks, Frank. Yeah.
I managed to finish my scrap knit enormous Phrancko. It's
Ooh.
been drying on the classroom table in here.
Boy, I have been thinking about that thing ever since you brought it up.
Dry enough to try on. Let's see. Here I am. Okay.
Fascinating. All
And
the
the heater has been on it, and I'm just like, ugh, because it's been relatively damp here. Damp for us, but this is it. Whoa.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
nice.
Wow.
Colors on that are just glorious.
It's a rag rug.
I love it.
How in the world did you do that so well?
What?
Like, mine would have
You
never
know,
looked like that.
I do weird things, but yeah.
Wow.
Let's see.
That
And
Oh, I
is
this
love the
shawl
colour on
color.
that.
Look at
Oh, that's
that.
so cute. Oh, I love it. Wow.
That's amazing.
That is
Yes.
beautiful, Ron.
Yeah.
Yeah. Superb.
With it. So
Terrific. That is just terrific.
cuddly
More-
and cozy. So,
Oh,
and
wow.
I've managed to get usable notes for the integrated.
Oh,
shawl
yay. Good,
construction.
good. Because then when I get done with this vest, I'm
Yeah.
free to work on something that I want to. So I could do it, Ron.
And yeah, because I just like every time I've made 4 or 5 sweaters with that integrated shawl collar, or variations of it that I've tried, but never took sufficient notes for myself. Or I would be like, okay, these are good notes, and then I would come back 2.5 months later and go, who wrote this? Have they ever
know.
made a diagram? The other thing I worked on was another little sleepy
Oh,
time hat.
Oh, that's pretty.
That's very pretty.
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Love the
Ron, that
Very
is too cute.
nice.
That
This
is
is
just too
my
cute.
honk shoe me hat.
You look so good in hats.
We
He really does. He should be a
If
hat model.
only I were ever cold.
Yes.
This
Well,
does
maybe you just
indicate
need
about
to
how
travel
sleepy I
more.
am
You can
most of the
travel.
time.
You can travel more. Travel more.
The
Right.
gradient
You know,
on that
go
one.
north.
Yeah. But a lot of what I was doing while I was making this hat was I'm going to make it into a little pattern that I can give my students. But I was also kind of wading into the what's the most symmetrical pair of decreases thing
Oh,
and doing some experimentation. So let me show you. Let me show you these decreases. These are made with fully fashioned increases so that they are close to one another and they show up next to one another quite a bit. The final hat pattern would probably call for blended decreases that make a nice line.
mhm.
But let me see if you could see this.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
we
I
can
like
see it.
those.
I like that.
Like
Mhm,
that.
mhm.
That looks really nice. I like it.
Pretty symmetrical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
it-
so what technique did you use for your SSKs or your left-leaning ones?
I will be happy to tell you, but it is a secret technique on both of them. It's not a secret technique, I'm telling you. So the SSK, the left-leaning decrease, is the one where only the first stitch gets twisted. So for these purposes, I'm calling it a, why is my nephew calling me? I'll call him back later. A S1 K2 together through the back loop. So it's like an SSK, but only the first stitch gets remounted, and then the two of them are knit together, twisting the stitch below. Sometimes this is called a modified SSK. It exists, it's an existing thing.
So
And
you're
then-
twisting the understitch.
Yes, the stitch underneath
Yeah.
is twisted. The right leaning increase, structurally the same, but flipped. It's a knit two together, but the first stitch is remounted.
Oh,
So the stitch underneath
Oh, okay.
the right leading decrease is also twisted.
Oh,
And
interesting.
they're very close to one another.
Yeah.
It is, and they look like they're close in size to the surrounding stitches too, because that's the thing with decreases is they don't quite match the surrounding stitches. Not only sometimes do they not match each other, but they don't go with really well with the stitches around them. But
I'm trying
that
to
looks really nice.
Angle it so the light catches the size of the increase on top.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, it looks
You
really
see it
nice.
okay?
oui.
So after like swatching and swatching, actually the swatching was getting to the decrease section and then knitting it and pulling it out, knitting it and pulling it out, knitting it and pulling it out, and looking at things for a few rounds. That's where I landed. I'm really pleased with the way those look together. If you're in a situation where opposite decreases are going to be close to one another,
Mhm.
in lace or things like that. And when they're blended decreases, they also look you don't get sort of one big line and one small line.
Right, one tiny one.
You know
Yeah.
the experience, right?
Yes.
SFK line is big and then knit two together line is small. So that's it. Yeah, I took that modified SSK that floats around where the lower stitch is twisted and just applied the same principle to a knit two together. It's one more step for a knit two together, but I think there's mileage in it. It looks nice to my eye.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it
It's
came
very
from a
good.
discussion I was having with some of my advanced or intermediate knitting students in my second round of classes, because that's where I introduced lace and mirrored decreases and all of that stuff. And like, mine looks weird. No, they look weird. Yours do look weird, but they all look weird. Like, yours don't look any different than any other person's first set of knit two togethers and SSKs. I promise you, that's how they look. And there are things you can do, and we'll talk about it next week. So it's just like, what have I done? Nothing. You've done them perfectly. They just look kind of different.
They do.
So that's
Well-
what I've been up to. A little bit of experimentation and a little bit of giant traffic stopping jacket.
Traffic
jacket is
stopping.
Not because
Gorgeous.
it's beautiful, because it looks like there's a hazard in the road.
No, it doesn't look like there's a hazard.
It's very
I
brightly
think
colored.
it is very brightly colored. I mean, I could see wearing it with, I would wear it with just like a plain black dress underneath, and you wear that, and it's
Right.
like, oh,
Right.
that's
Well,
gorgeous.
one of my t-shirts would be a plain black dress on you, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
the same deal. But yeah, I'm very pleased. Now I can turn off the heat.
Great. So who else would like to show us what they're working on?
I guess I'll show you the project I'm doing for Kathy, which is a lace cardigan. And I was disappointed that she never published this because she tried it a couple of years ago. And let's see if I can get it to show.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
Oh,
pretty.
love it.
Mhm.
oh,
Wow.
nice.
So this
Nice.
is one of the yarns she sells on her little website, but I don't remember the name of it. Sorry. So, but it's all in one piece. So front, back's all attached.
I love that kind of lattice.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Mhm,
And
It's really
so
pretty.
it's very, very stretchy. Very stretchy.
Is it simple to knit? Is the work, are the increases and decreases only on one side? Are they back and forth? What's the
Well,
pattern like?
I don't think there really is any increases and decreases. I think it's straight up and down.
But there's yarn overs in there, right?
Pardon?
There's yarn overs in there?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but that's just part of the lace.
Yeah.
It's a
Mhm.
4-row repeat. And so you do a knit 2 together and a yarn over, and then you do them on opposite. You
Yeah.
do the yarn over and then the purl 2 together. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Purl 2 together, yarn over, and then a yarn over, purl 2 together kind of thing. So
Trellis stitch, that's the word I was looking for.
it's very nice. But yeah, I don't think it has shaping in it.
No.
If I recall the pattern, it's just a straight, so you just do the arm openings. And then it has the provisional cast on, which I use this tubing, this plastic tubing
Oh, right.
Mhm.
that's hollow, so that we can put these stitches back on the needle. And it's a peplum on the bottom.
Cute.
Okay.
Mm.
It's a what on the bottom, sorry?
A peplum, it's essentially more fabric, almost like gathered.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, peplum it's almost like a little skirt kind of
Yeah.
Oh,
thing
okay.
that
A
it
little
is. It's a little
smocking.
gathery portion at the bottom. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
I've not heard of that terminology. Okay, yeah.
Did you finish the blanket you were knitting?
Yes,
I
yes.
missed that
It's
part.
it may be off to the grandchild of my Zoom blanket, so I have no more Zoom projects. I may have to start another Zoom blanket because that is really perfect for Zoom meetings. You don't have to think about it at all, but yeah, I got it all done. And
Right.
so now I'm also working on a sweater from Tannis Fiber Arts called Lady Sunnyside. I don't have it with me, but I've made that sweater a long time ago, and I'm making it again and hoping maybe I can give away some sweaters for Christmas next year.
Wow, that's getting an early start on Christmas presents.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
goodness.
very early. And I am going to take Suzanne Bryan's lace class, so that starts soon. That'll be a lot of fun. So who else has something?
Well, we haven't heard from Sidra or Jenny. Either of you like to show something?
Also, I have is my swatch, and I started a double knit blanket. Not very far. It's like
Oh, wow.
an hour and a half to do a row or something like that. So
Oh,
not much
no.
getting done on it.
Well, you can show us the yarn you're using anyway, the color.
It's just it's Brava, from Knit Picks. You know,
Ah,
so it's like 12 skeins of each and
Yowza.
pattern.
Oh, cute.
oh, so it's double knit.
Yeah, I'm a glutton for punishment. It's like, it's a throw. It's like not a baby blanket.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Huh.
I
That is
can't
going to be a
wait to see that.
long-term project.
Yeah, very long term.
Yeah.
And then I think the last double knit, I was trying to work on that scarf with all the cats. I'm halfway through it. I'm going, I really don't like it. I don't like the color combination.
Oh, no.
So my husband goes, why don't you take it apart? I'm going, but.
Oh, no. Oh,
I'm gonna take it
ouch.
apart.
Oh,
I don't
no.
like the color, it doesn't show up right, so I have to take it apart.
Oh, that's a
I've got other
shame.
ones I want to do instead of that one. But it's gonna be really hard to take that one apart because it's like halfway done.
Mm.
Jenny, are you still working on your colorful scarf?
Yes, I have one last square to do, and then I'm on the triangles for the
Ah.
My
so we're
gosh.
knitting
For
now.
the finishing row.
Yes, for
Wow.
finishing row. So one last square, and then I've got to work all the way back to do the triangles to fill all the gaps in on all the
Okay,
way
yeah.
back. So
Yes.
yeah, so that's nearly there now, nearly there. Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
It's gorgeous, the colors.
Isn't it?
Mm.
The
I
colours are
know.
coming out really nice. Yes, yeah,
And the colors change automatically. That's what's so amazing about that yarn.
yes, yes. It's really good. The sour ball. Yes, it's really good for the color changes. Yeah. So yeah,
And
nearly there.
how many skeins did that take? How many balls did that take?
It'll be just under 2, I think, when I finished.
Oh,
Okay.
So
Yeah,
and
that's
I'll
not bad at
measure
all.
it
Oh,
when it's
that's so pretty.
yes, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Oh,
in theory,
my.
you could just keep going if you wanted something bigger.
Mm.
But I'll give it a measure when it's done, just when I've blocked it to see how big it is.
Ron, are you still doing your design course?
It is on a temporary hiatus. It is something I intend to get back to in the new year. I'm sort of looking at my planner. I've got much of the work done. It just kind of turned into shop business and then theater business. So this January, I'm not having any classes at the shop because I'm rewriting, like from the ground up, a crochet curriculum, just what I've learned teaching crochet class after crochet class over this last year, because it's been nonstop crochet classes. And I'm just like, okay, I think I've got it. I think I know what people need to hear. Here anyway. And then I'm working through a production of Steel Magnolias. And then by February, that'll be over. So my spring plan is to get that second module completed.
Wow.
Knock wood.
I'm exhausted. I need
That's
to take
why
a
I need my
nap.
sleepy hat.
That's right. That's right.
You guys make me tired.
See? Doesn't this say don't ask me any complicated questions?
What yarn is that for the hat, Ron? What yarn is that for the hat?
This is Cumulus Dappled by Juniper Moon Farms.
Oh,
An
Juniper Moon,
incredibly
right.
soft cotton. It
Oh.
comes in
Lovely.
lots of different types of colors. So there are solids, there are the long color changes like this, there's long gradients. It's one of the yarns we've had since the day we opened. Incredibly popular. It is hands down the softest cotton yarn that I've touched.
Mm.
Hmm.
Wow.
But it has to get off of me. Steam lines.
You can send it to me. I'm freezing here in
It was
Florida. It's like
Florida.
yeah, it's like 60s. We can barely stand it.
I know it was in the high 60s here, which is why I'm suffering with the heat on. Like, okay, my sweater's never gonna dry outside. It is 2 inches thick. But well, sorry everyone else, but in 4 months it'll be 110 degrees.
Yeah, then we'll feel sorry for you.
Presumably I
Serena-
could move if I wanted to.
Serena, you brought up something about, it's like 60 degrees and we're freezing here, right? So one of my daughter's best friends from high school is visiting, from Florida. I think she lives in Miami or something like that, with her daughter who's 6 or 7, somewhere around there, back into California, and they're visiting San Francisco right now. And they're out at the beach, and she's complaining, "Why is it so cold here?"
Oh my
gosh.
Well, let's see. What is it in San Francisco? It's 58 degrees today.
Not a surprising
It's
temperature for the dead of
It's
summer.
about 58. It's about 58 here. We're not having much cold. It's weird.
Oh,
We're
that is
51.
A
weird.
lot of rain, but
For Washington,
58.
that's
For
amazing.
Washington, it is. Yeah, it is. It's not like, well, I got the memories on Facebook, and it's like, oh, last year, look, there was the snow. Oh, 2 years ago, look, there was the snow. Oh, 4 years ago, look at all the snow we had. Well, I still have plants in the planters that have not frozen yet.
Be
Wow.
careful what you wish for.
I'm not wishing for it. I'm just saying.
Well, it is that time again. 3:30. It's time to say goodbye for another week. And I hope some of you, if not all of you, next Saturday morning at 10:30. And if no new people show up, we will say goodbye after 10 minutes and reconvene at 2:30. In either case, we will also have the 2:30 meeting, which will be recorded.
Okey-dokey.
Bye, everyone.
So bye-bye for another week.
Everybody.
Happy New
Thank
Year,
you all for
everyone.
being here.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.